Hello, beautiful people and fellow whiners, and welcome to another episode of A Little Something, the number 2, Wineabouts, because there are two of us. As y'all know, we are your hostesses with the mostesses and the toastesses, Siobhan Camille.
Anti-A Michelle. I like the toastesses. That was awesome.
It is Second Wednesday here. We are now in February, Black History Month, you know. Hey people. Yeah, and so today, Second Wednesday means just less wine. So we are going to wine sisters. We're gonna get a little heavy. We had fun in January.
Heavy, you got so heavy on me. Okay.
We're gonna get a little heavy today.
Talk. Ain't that what Beyonce did?
With the neck, yes. We're gonna talk about trusting after trauma.
Woo! Woo!
Yeah. So grab your glass of red, white, rosé, Pinot de Agua, and join us on the couch.
Y'all, that topic. That was heavy. Okay.
I clearly have not seen that movie in a while. I think I've seen it.
Oh, I don't even like that heifer, but Jennifer Hudson gets me every time.
No, Anika Nani Rose gets me. Lorraine.
Yes, I was like, I don't know her name, but Tiana Princess voice. Lorraine. Her face.
I mean, she was committed.
When she said, I said, ooh.
It's the and for me. It was the and. She on your behind. Boy, it's done. It's done. She said it to the Lord.
That was good. But when she put that, ooh, I was like, ooh, finish it.
She did that.
Between her and Effie, what? I was like, yes, girl. I was girl. I was there. So I guess it's the church girl in me.
It's a lot of church in that movie.
So everybody who got nominated in that, okay, not gonna go there. Anyway, hey y'all, yeah, that topic was heavy. It is heavy. So hope y'all having a good week. So before we get into it, y'all know this is the part of the show we call the Popping Grapes Experience, where we tell a little bit about the wines that we are tasting for the first time. So before we get into it, Siobhan, let me know, what is your Popping Grapes experience if you're having one?
So it is Black History Month, so y'all know every February we celebrate Black wines. And while we have seen the McBride sisters, Black Girl Magic on here before, I'm bringing it back with their red blend. Y'all know I'm not a big red fan, so I have fears and tears.
Okay. Red.
But most reds are full bodied, so they're heavy. So it goes with the topic. Yeah. So that's what I got. This is a poppin' red blend by Black Girl Magic of the McBride Sister Collection.
Oh, okay. So y'all, I had a whole experience, and I think Siobhan did too, gathering our wines, because as we know, Black owned wine companies or Black wineries kind of are limited to distribution. So we're kind of subjected to whatever is in our region unless we have the ability to travel at the time. Right now we do not. So went to Total Wines, and I want to give a huge shout out to Nate. And I went to the Total Wines in Alexandria. Hey Nate, thanks for all the help today to help me pick out my wines for this week and next week. So you guys be sure to join us next week for that popping grapes experience. But for this one, I went with the Brown Estate, as we learned last year. We had their Chardonnay. Um, and it was the pretty one with the black girl with the whole bunch of like it was cute. So Brown Estate, they're in Napa Valley, California, and this one is called Chaos Theory. The bottle is absolutely gorgeous. It kind of looks a little matrixy. And this is a pretty penty. Okay, so spare no expense type of experience that's going on today. And so I'm excited to see what it tastes like. And of course, in true Ty Michelle experiences, there's nothing on the back.
Yeah, this on the back only really has like one sentence at the bottom. All the rest is about Black girl magic, the phrase, the wine, and all of that. So
yeah. So Brown Estates, here we go again with this. Oh, what is this? This is a I feel
yes, it's a red blend.
I feel like it's a red. Is it a red blend? I have to look. Yeah, it just says red wine. So I think it's a red blend.
Probably a blend.
Yeah, I think this is a blend. So we shall see. Okay. So while we're doing that, here we go, y'all. Oh, wait, we gotta do our first sis, what's been up segment. You know, we usually do this for our Sis Let's Wine episodes, and this is just a part of the show where we just catch up a little bit. So what's been going on?
So I'm gonna just rank it real quick, y'all. I will be in Italy in March for a week. I just booked that their Flizzites and hotels today. So this is happening. I am committed. For anybody who knows me, if y'all don't know me, I hate flying. So, but I love traveling. I love traveling, but I hate flying. And I love international travel, but I hate flying. So this is that speaks to who I am. That is who I am.
It's a thing
in my whole life. Where it's like, but you have to do that to get. I know what I have to do, but I don't want to do.
But that don't mean I want to do it. Right.
I've always wanted a life partner, husband, whatever you want to call him, but I don't like dating. Never liked dating. Hate dating. Didn't want to do dating. Everybody's like, you going? I was like, I don't know. And I used to love whenever I would see the little memes or the little things come up that were like, for all the women who are dating, would you expected him to just break in your house and that's the man for you? Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. I expect him to come in. Yeah, I was gonna rob you, but damn, like, yo, can I take you out? Yes. I don't want to. But anyway, so I realize you have to drink the medicine to get better. I just don't want the medicine. So yes, that's the quick of it. Is I will be taking trips. So that's what I did. Y'all, we had a whole thing before we started recording. We usually do a before and after. That may become its own series, depending. Who knows? But it'll probably show up as a bonus because I'll be in Italy in March.
There you go. And there you have it. Content, no matter what content. I'm sorry, y'all. That piece is like bugging me. What's been going on with me? I am actively doing nothing spectacular. Other than, regular things, going to work, being the supportive parent, oldest girl senior year, preparing for that, even though I don't have to take the brunt of it. I love playing stepmommy, like that role, that stepmommy where you stand behind the parents. I love that role. So I get to play that for this senior year, and I am going to enjoy it because next year I'm mommy, front row and center senior year. So that is what is going on. And I'm clearly in planning things. My dad's birthday is coming up, so I'm in full planning mode of that. And my parents' anniversary, they have decided they want to go to Hawaii. So I will be clearly planning that. And if you all remember, planning their wedding was a thing. So I don't expect this to be too much different because it's not just them two going. So, but other than that, the biggest adventure is saving for this house and starting the house by process from its organic start. So that's what's been going on with me. That's about it. Not a whole bunch. Thank you, Jesus. Please, I'm not complaining. If we could keep it here, I'm good. let's put that out in the atmosphere. Oh, okay. So wow, let's jump into this. Trusting after trauma. What brought this up is we hear the buzzword trauma all the time. Oh, if you do this to your kids, it'll be trauma. If you don't do that to your kids, it will be trauma. If you fell and cracked your toenail, you're traumatized. If your mama spanked your behind after telling you not to do something for 20 times and she really whooped your butt and you got a bruise behind it, now you're traumatized. Then there's the real traumas, the real deaths of both parents. That's traumatizing. Losing one parent, divorce, real traumas, sexual assault. Then there are those. And we want to talk about the process of how to start all over. Because when real trauma happens to you, you are, in lack of better words, like ripped to shreds in most cases. Like you're torn apart. You are in a place of what can seem to be desperation. You are in a place of, I don't know where I am. How do I recover? Of no way out, as they say. You don't see anything, a dark place. You're in a dark place, you don't see anything in front of you. And what does it look like to come out of it? And for some people that may look like pulling yourself out of that place. For others, that is seeking a support system. But in all honesty, what does that look like? I know if we're going to throw this word out there, I would like to attach the word triumph to that. Trusting your trauma to me equals triumph. I'm triumphant. I've overcome something. So how do we get to that part where we go from trauma to trusting to being triumphant, like to being a conqueror of it? And I think that's more important for us to put out there, how we get to at least the trusting part. If you get to the triumph part, you know what I'm saying, you're doing great. But at least to the trusting part, that first level, what does that look like? And that is something that both Siobhan and I have had private conversations about, because we both have truly been through some traumatizing things, things that really have broken us apart. Not to go into too many details, and I'm not going to hog this conversation. I'm gonna let Siobhan kind of take us through a few steps of 1 or 2 steps of how she started to begin to trust, because sometimes it may have happened 10 years ago and you may still be in the beginning stages of trusting. So what does those first couple steps look like to begin to rebuild that trust after being truly traumatized?
Yeah, I'm not an expert. I will just
what is something that you have done?
I guess this is what I will say. First and foremost, to her point, know what real trauma is. It is a word that is thrown around too much. Know what real trauma is, and it is not because your parents spanked you behind after you were doing too much. Okay? Or not enough at school. Okay? You kept bringing home F's. She wailed on your behind. That's not traumatizing. Perhaps if she took a whole switchblade to your throat, that might be. But if she just took her hand and popped your behind, no, please understand what real trauma is. And I don't say that lightly as someone who has experienced real trauma. really traumatic moments. And so I know if anybody's like, well, how y'all gonna tell us whatever, whatever, I'm not gonna speak for my sister, I'm gonna speak for me. And trauma is something that really impacts you on a daily in the way that you see the world or see yourself. It's not enough of, oh, my mom popped my butt whenever I was doing something wrong. Well, she was trying to teach you a lesson versus someone whose parent is abusive. That makes you really look at the world like, yo, everybody out is out to hit me, or I'm just a punching bag, or whatever the case may be. True trauma is not, I hesitate when it comes to sexual stuff. So I'll just say, I won't say what it's not, I'll say what it is. Examples would be assault, true sexual assault. And I know that people with the cat calling, I'm going to be honest, I don't personally consider cat calling traumatizing. It's annoying as all hell sometimes, but I don't consider that traumatizing. And I say that as a woman who has truly been traumatized sexually. That no, when you've actually really experienced, I'm not saying that someone catcalling you is an annoying, get on your nerves, all this stuff. If you really feel threatened by this catcalling because there's something else coming behind it, or you feel a threat because of who is saying it, if the guy on the corner keeps saying this and he's in somebody's, pedophile database, that's a different story because you have a legit reason to feel scared for your life and look at the world and yourself differently. But just because some random dude told you, hey, you got a fat ass when you walk past him in the club, no. Have you ever seen him again? Will you ever see him again? No. If this is a dude that stands outside your place of employment, or a security guard in your place of employment, or somebody you see on a regular, yes, I guess my thing to more trauma is if something, and it doesn't have to be that. I realize that there are exceptions to this rule. You could be mugged by a stranger at gunpoint and all of these things. And yes, that can be traumatic. Why? Because your life is on the line. When your life, health, and safety are on the line, that is a traumatic experience. And I think the first step to me is recognizing what true trauma is. After that, the next step is deciding not to be a victim or wallow in victimhood. And I know that's a very popular thing now. Everybody wants to be, I'm so traumatized too, and me too, and me too. I think the Me Too, I won't even say the Me Too movement because that was very specific about a certain type of thing. But this need for social inclusion and me too, in the same thing, include me, because whatever the quote unquote trauma is, you want to feel a part. All clubs are not good clubs to be a part of. There are people who are in these trauma clubs, if you will, that would give anything to not be in them. Mm-hmm. There are people sitting in Alcoholics Anonymous who would give anything not to be there. Mm-hmm. There are people who are in rehab for drug addiction that would love to not be there.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of that is self-inflicted trauma.
It can be. And a lot of that can be self-inflicted because that was their coping mechanism for something traumatic that happens to them. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of women who are in, and I hope YouTube, because I got issues with this word, but I'm just saying one time, that are in rape clubs. Like, how do we get through this together? Because we all, that would have loved to never have had that experience.
Absolutely.
So being like, oh, me too. I'm a victim too. That happened to me too. I did drugs too. Oh my God. It's not always a great club to be a part of. There are people out here who have experienced sexism, racism, pick-a-ism. It's not the best club. And because you see somebody who's surviving and perhaps thriving in it, and we did have that whole conversation, surviving and thriving, click if you missed it. That doesn't mean that that's something that they wanted to go through. So if you are going through something traumatic, truly, the second part of after acknowledging that it's really been trauma is to not be a victim. Mm-hmm. Make that decision to not live there in victimhood.
Right. And I'm going to piggyback off of living in victimhood. Living in victimhood is realistically reliving that trauma over and over again. And I've never been one to live in victimhood. In fact, I think my defense mechanism for one of the traumatic experiences that I had is the refusal to be looked as a victim. So I take responsibility in the parts that I can take responsibility in. Does that mean that what happened to me, the other person had any right at all to do that, or those other persons had any right to do that at all? Absolutely not. But there were things that I could have done differently to perhaps keep myself out of that predicament. So recognizing that, I was told, "Oh, you are you are the victim. You are supposed to feel." I feel that way sometimes, but self-blaming is a part. It's not blaming to an extent. It's recognizing responsibility, and it's nothing wrong with if you have had something traumatic happen to you, you taking responsibility in your part of it. You taking a responsibility. You know what? For me, it's what the Holy Spirit told me not to do. I knew better than to do at least this much. Did that give that other person the right to do X, Y, and Z? No. But putting yourself in certain predicaments, you open the doors for certain things to happen. You put yourself in, for lack of better words, harm's way. And that's something that our parents are always teaching us. No, we can't prevent everything, but there are some things that we can. So being able to recognize that is a part of victimhood that you don't have you don't have to be ashamed of. You don't have to feel bad about that. Like, taking ownership, you can own it, and it's perfectly fine. It's perfectly normal, as long as you're not, quote unquote, weaponizing it, or making it, "Oh, well, I know you." Okay, accept it and move on. And for some, I will say this: trust it to this. What I did after, and I'll just speak to just that one traumatic experience when that happened to me. Um, and yes, I am talking about sexual assault. When that happened to me, I took responsibility for my part. I couldn't believe what happened in the beginning, but I took responsibility on my part. And then it was, well, what are you going to do? Um, and the thing, I didn't want to tell anyone close to me. Those who were there to support me during that point in time are the only ones who knew. Um, and the funny thing is, even in that, some of those people questioned me and what happened. So understand that when you go through certain traumas, everybody's not going to understand. Everybody's not going to be in your corner. And that's part of starting to trust after your trauma, just to recognize everybody's not going to have sympathy for you, or let alone empathy. A lot of people don't even know what that is. So understanding that, not looking at that's one. Understand that. Two is not taking your strength and weaponizing it, and not letting anyone else weaponize you taking responsibility for your part in things. Those are three other ways to build off of that. But then change your environment. That was what I did. I changed my environment. I changed my environment because ultimately, me looking at what happened, no, it shouldn't happen. Yes, I could have done things differently, but I valued myself differently. So it brings on a self-reflecting. Like, even in that hurt, even in that pain, even the betrayal, during the traumatization, I need you to look within yourself honestly and find a way to use that as your strength. And you use it as your strength to take the next step to change your environment. You know what? I'm not going to be around these people anymore because this is what happened. And stand on, hey, no, that's who I was. This is what happened. I know I'm better than that. I always know I was better than that. But I learned, I lived, I learned, and now I'm going to move on. And don't allow anyone else to take you back to that place after you've started to heal from that trauma. And that's, I guess that's what it is. It's a healing process. Um, you will, it's a healing process. And so the first step, I would say, one is, like she said, you recognize it. Two, if you need support, find that support. Like I said, when I went to go look for that support, some of the people that I went that were there when it happened turned on me. So I couldn't use them as a support. Um, so recognizing that, I then knew, well, what's my next outcome? Is that disappointing, and can it make you retract into the victim, what happened in that traumatic experience? Yes, but you're strong enough. Trust me, you are strong enough to take that next step. To, if you know you need a support system, find one. There are plenty out there. If that looks like therapy, um, call a therapist. There are a lot of therapists right now that have free consultations. Or BetterHelp is a huge thing that's out there right now where you don't even have to go into somebody's office. So find a support system that'll help you take that next step. Even if it's not a professional, maybe it's a friend, maybe it's a church member, maybe it's a sister, a cousin, a uncle. And if you can't find that support system, pray. God is always there. And I know you may be a question your faith, because that's something that trauma does, especially for those of us who believe in a higher power. It breaks you down to the point where you go, oh my God, like, why did you let this happen to me? Like, what is, like, I'm your child. You didn't watch over me. Like, you feel all of that. So you have to go back to, for those of us of faith, go back to our word, go back to knowing what he truly is about, what he is, and down in those noise and pestilence and things like that, to get you back on track, because this trauma is going to turn into your testimony for someone else, and you may end up being the support system for them. So that's what I'll have to say about that. But yeah, find a support system, something or someone that will listen, actively listen, not hold it against you, and it's a vote, because even while you're healing, you're going to retract. I don't care what anybody's victory story says. If you listen closely, you will always hear a retraction. I was doing good. I changed this. I went here. And then one day I was in my room and it hit me. So know that the retraction or the thought coming up years later is a part of the healing process. Just don't stay there. Like Siobhan said, don't stay in that victimhood. Grow out of it. Move forward from that. And when you find that support, that's the one thing when it comes to piggyback, trusting that support system is going to be your first step in trusting. Because when you turn to that person, now you are trusting them to do what? Hold your word, hold what you're saying sacred. They're not going to tell anyone. So that's your first step of trusting. So I would say, find a support system. And your system could be one person. Your system could be, if you're Catholic, a priest. You know how they go in the box and do the whole confessional thing. If that's what it is, then that's what it is. But that's trusting. That's your very first step in trusting. If it's reporting it, that's your very first step in trusting, because you're trusting the police, which I know can be a little rocky, and I understand the history of the police. But if you taking that first step to report whatever this traumatic experience was, whether it be to the police or whoever else you report stuff to, it escapes me right now. That's because you have to trust that they'll take that information and either hold it or act on it. So I would say, find the support, and that'll be your first step in trusting. That's that's my first step. The second step would be to don't just take the responsibility and move on, change your environment. That's what I got. And after you change your environment, trust and believe things will start to change. People will start to look at you differently. You will start to look at you differently. You will then, I'm gonna be honest, in building the trust after trauma, you will then learn to trust yourself more. You will then learn to recognize certain red flags in other areas of your life. But you got to start somewhere. So that first step in trusting is finding support, in my eyes. You got something else for the people?
Yeah. So for me, my first is, like I say, just acknowledge what is not trauma. 2, whatever has happened to you, make the decision to not live in the victimhood. I will agree that to me, then the third step is to come to terms. And to me, come to terms means acceptance. Mm-hmm. And that is a part of acknowledging your part in it and the other person's, as she said. Now, here's the thing about that. 2 things can be true at the same time. And I say this for the binary thinkers out there that are like, no, it was her fault. No, it was his fault. Well, this is this less wine. No, it was his fault. Because a lot of this stuff, like just taking, or it was my parents' fault. My dad didn't do this. My mom beat me, this, that, and the third. Yeah, if you are a child and trauma happened to you, even in that, unless you were truly like, away, there was still someone you could have told. A teacher, another parent, if your parents were split, your grandparents, a church member, if you go to church, run and tell the police. Again, I realize that gets questionable. There are other options though. And when you're an adult, you have to come to terms with, and I say this as someone who experienced childhood trauma and did not report or say certain things, that I have to look back and be like, you know what? I could have. I did not know then how that person would have, how my potential safety net would have reacted. So I did not go there. And who that person is now, I'll just say it like this. My mom, I didn't go to my mom with a lot of stuff when I was a kid that I could have, because I was concerned about her response and her reaction. And I, as an adult, have to own it. Could I have changed things that happened to me as a child? Perhaps. Had I told her, perhaps things would have been different. Own that. You still have to own that decision. To the point of sexual assault, you didn't have to necessarily be in that house. You didn't have to be here. You could have not walked down the street. Were you in a place that you thought maybe this isn't, and you heard a little voice and you ignored it? If none of this is true for you, then you are like probably extreme anomaly. And I pray for you, because there's nothing else I can do. But if you can truly acknowledge, yeah, I probably shouldn't have done this, that does not absolve, as she said, the other person. But it allows you to look at yourself and take yourself first out of victimhood by accepting responsibility. Even if your responsibility is only 10% and the 90 is on that other person, there's still the 10. And 2 things can still be true at the same time. Even if you were like, you know what? I didn't really know him like that, so I probably shouldn't have really worn that red dress that was short, because I know everybody makes this big thing on women about, what did you have on? And it should not matter. It should not. But as we know how the world is, it does matter to an extent. Because he could say, well, you were giving me mixed signals. I didn't know which whatever. And that may be potential. That could just be an excuse. I'm not knocking that. But that could also be the truth from his side, from his perspective. I didn't know how to read what was going on. And with all the mixed signals that the world is sending these days, men, women, and otherwise, it's very difficult, I think, even for women to understand who's a true friend and who's not. Mm-hmm. And for anybody who's like, well, what are you talking about? The Shanquella woman who was murdered by her friends in Mexico is a prime example of someone giving you signals, or you believing someone is your friend and you dying behind it. And that's an extreme, but a lot of that can happen. And the reason I say take responsibility or acknowledge and take the totality and accept is so that you can first trust yourself. I personally don't have an issue with getting a support system. I'm not even gonna say though, for me, that would be the first thing. You have to get to a point where you can trust yourself and your judgment. And I think that's what gets smacked down first when it comes to traumatic experiences. Especially once you start to take responsibility, that's the double-edged sword other side of a lot of people going, man, and taking too much responsibility. Again, 10 is on you, 90 is on that person. Don't take that full 90. Don't you take it. Don't you take it. Don't you take the responsibility of somebody else. No. Especially as women, we do that too much. There's too many single mothers out here taking on full kid responsibilities when there was another party involved in creating that child. So we don't need to be taking on any other further responsibilities 100% when we only came to the table with 50% or less. Don't do that. Don't do that, ladies. Don't do it. Once you acknowledge your part, you have to get to the point to trust yourself, which is saying, you know what? I should not have. I have learned from that and go forward. As she said, either change your environment or take small steps to change how you move. Mm-hmm. If you're like, you know what? I went to this dude's house 2 dates in. Going forward, I will not go to anybody's house unless I've known them for 4. Cool. Take actions for what you can control, because the only person you can control is yourself. Mm-hmm. That's the truth of that. Because to me, in my experience, the hardest thing about trauma, especially if you're an introvert, is retrusting yourself, because you don't really go to other people anyway. So for my introverts out there who are like, yo, I really don't rock with support systems, it's like me and my cat. You can talk to your cat or your dog or your fish or your parrot or whatever you have going on, but you have to get to the point to trust yourself again. And to me, the first step in that is acceptance of your part and changing how you move, or changing or being, I hate to say like more being on the evil eye, but I have a girl at work who's like Muslim, and we were talking about the evil eye the other day. And so not thinking that everybody's out to get you, but being more wary and protective. Be protective of yourself after trauma. And while that may seem counterintuitive to being trusting, if you know that you put up boundaries and protective shields, that gives you the ability to trust, because you can trust on your terms. Mm-hmm. The first person you need to come back to trusting is yourself. And then going and doing a survey of the people around you can trust. Because as she said, you may tell somebody your trauma and you might lose people. Mm-hmm. You may lose people, you may not. You may gain allies that you didn't know that you had. But to me, before you take that step, especially if what was done to you was traumatic by somebody else, trust yourself first. Really get to the point where you can be like, I'm good, even if these people turn on me. Because the worst thing is for somebody to turn on you while you trying to figure you out, and then you just, everybody, this person violated me like this, then my friends violated and betrayed me. I don't have anybody. And that'll put you deeper in the hole of depression. You have to get to a point where you can look at yourself and trust yourself. And then yes, go to your support team. Make sure your support team is your support team. I hope they are your support team. Mm-hmm. And allow yourself to heal in that manner. Trust starts with self, to me. If you don't trust you and the decisions,
absolutely,
and the decisions that you make, then how you gonna trust who you have around you? Because that's your decision. How you gonna trust the moves you make? Because that's your decision. Trust has to start with self. You have to get back to a place where you trust yourself. And if that is therapy, if that is talking to yourself, if that is being, a sounding board for somebody else, if you need to call a hotline and talk to somebody who has no idea who you are, because you don't need to be somebody that you heard, but you just need to hear these words said out loud. If you need to walk around your house and talk to yourself, God knows I'm good for that. If you need to walk around your house and talk to yourself and hear it, because sometimes the biggest thing is to hear how something sounds out loud, is to say it out loud. And that may sound crazy. I have a child in my house that I'm literally like, read the instructions. I didn't read the instructions. Read them out loud. It says subtract, not add. You did not read. Because so you really sometimes just speaking things out loud, and because there is power in words, will help you get there. So my thing for trust would be 1, identify the trauma. 2, don't allow yourself to fall in the mentality of being a victim and live in victimhood. 3, acceptance of what happened to you and your part in it, even if you were just like, I was just there. Um, coming to terms with yourself and learning how to be okay, change the way that you move so that you can adjust and learn from what you've done and then just move forward and continue and accept that, as she said, backtracking and all of that is a part of healing. It's a part of the process. Mm-hmm. And if you've ever fallen down, gotten a scabbed, and then you picked it off, I mean, let's be real, and then it scabs up again and you're like, we're back here. That's healing. It's not as visible when it's internal and it's psychological, but it's the same thing. It's the same thing of getting something on, scraping your leg when you fell off a bike and then playing too rough and it scraped and you busted open, or you did something, you bust your stitches back open and the doctor's like, I told you to stop doing it. Whatever it is, healing is a process. And depending on the amount of trauma and depending on what the trauma was, it may be a couple weeks, maybe months, maybe a lifelong situation.
Yeah, and trust, building, trusting after trauma starts with trusting the healing process. And all of what she said is the healing process. Those are the steps to the healing process. So we have to learn to trust the healing process and understand that it is just that. We know the process of getting your nails done may take an hour. Okay, that's one. The process of processing your head correctly, it's a journey. It takes some time. So that's another process. So if we're really dealing with a traumatic experience, when we start thinking, how do I move forward? The first step, I would say, overall, trust the process. Allow yourself to feel all that you're feeling and understand that it's normal. It is a part of the healing process. Allow yourself to cry. Allow yourself to be angry. Allow yourself to be sad. Allow yourself to feel what you're going to feel. But like she said, don't stay there. When you truly get, like, it's times when I get really stressed out, and granted, this is not traumatizing, but it's times I get really, really stressed out, and I will call my support system, and my support system will literally ask, when's the last time you cried? And I'm like, what am I crying for? I don't need to cry. Okay. Well, you sound X, Y, and Z. You sound hurt. You sound this. Yes, it's looking as stress, but it's not just what's causing this stress. Is it sadness? Is it disappointment? Is it neglect? Is it aggression? What's causing that? And sometimes your support system is going to challenge you to feel those things, to dig into your emotions, to dig into your thoughts, to dig into all of those things so that you can continue to heal. So what I'm saying is just it's all a part of the process, and trusting after your trauma can happen. And it happens in little pieces. Please don't expect that something traumatic is going to happen to you. You fall apart, and then within 6 months, you're just going to rebuild yourself, and you're fine. 9 times out of 10, real trauma takes more than 6 months to heal from. And that's real trauma. And that's because of the impact that it has on your life, the impact that it has on your thought process. Real trauma takes more work, more concentration, more focus, more persistence, but like more attention to the details in order to properly heal. And it's all a part of the healing process. And as you go through it, you will start to trust after your trauma. We have a friend, Crystal. She was on the podcast last year, and she has a wonderful book. What is it called? Come on, Siobhan, you good with names. I'm not good. I'm gonna tell you.
Break the chains, something
Break the
about
chain.
being misunderstood. Mhm.
Yes. I recommend reading that. And I recommend reading that because she speaks on her trauma and things that and how she and her healing process. And I'm not saying that you have to heal the same way, but there are some questions and things that she asks that will possibly help you to process some of the things that have gone on with you to start the healing process, to start your healing process. So that's just the book that we of a friend that we have had on the podcast that I definitely recommend. If you know you have gone through something that is traumatic and you don't know where to start, that's the source. Look for resources. They're out here. Those hotlines. I know we might sound old talking about something called the hotline and X, Y, and Z, but they still exist. They still exist for this reason because trauma is not new. Trauma is not old. And in all the things of technology and all the things of the world today, we have avenues to reach crazy things. So there are avenues to a lot of different avenues to reach help for the to help to
Just
help.
know you're going to have to put in the work. And there are Crystal's book is great because it's like a workbook. She does ask questions and gives you tests to do for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So coming, trusting after trauma, or just coming through and living after trauma, period, takes work. And but if it's about you, it's work on you. So nobody else can love you the way you're gonna love you. You have to live with you day in, day out, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and beyond that. So put in that work for yourself.
Self-care, ladies. We talk about it all the time. Reference to getting our nails done and our hair done and going to relax up brings and massage.
Prioritizing self is a thing. You need to prioritize yourself.
Prioritizing self looks like trusting after the trauma. And that's all I got. So on that note, ladies and gentlemen, I will say cheers to that. So before we wrap this up, this is the part of the episode where we give our true and honest wine reviews on our Popping Grapes experience. So Siobhan, do you want to go first?
So this says our red blend is smooth, voluptuous, and full-bodied with flavors of cherry, plum, cedar, and vanilla. Again, for those who don't remember, this is the 2019 Black Girl Magic red wine by the McBride Sisters collection. I did chase the cherry. I guess that was plum. I'm not a big plum fan. Somewhat the vanilla. I'm not sure about the cedar. I'm not a fan. I've had red blends that are okay. Yes, it is full bodied. It's fruitier and it is fruity and smooth. If that's your thing, this will be a great one for you. It is a fruity and smooth wine and definitely full bodied. For me, it's missing something.
Okay.
I'm not quite sure what because again, I'm not a red blend fan.
She said I'm not quite sure what.
But it's missing something. Like the finish to me doesn't have something to it. Like it's not heavy enough at the finish. It's too light or too smooth. I don't even think it's the smoothest. I think it's too the texture and the taste is too light and fruity for me at the end. Like the whole thing to me tastes kind of had a fruity base to it. And then comes in the vanilla, which is also sweet. So I don't get the cedar. And I guess that's supposed to mellow it out. I'm not sure. It's not a fave. Even as reds go. So I would give this a 1. I'm really not. I want to like it, y'all. I do. I want to because I bought it. I want to like it, but it's not something. It's not something that I would. It's not something that I would recommend unless again you like fruitier wines.
Excuse me. I'm sorry, y'all. Ever since I've been going to the gym, like legit, like I've been to the gym 3 times this week. I get home and be like, but dang, a 1?
Yeah, y'all know I don't really go that low. I wanted to give it a 1.5, but the 0.5 would just be out because I really like the cork and I appreciate the brand. But I that would be a curve that we don't really do. So I just the wine itself to me is it's not something I would get against.
That is the first time I ever heard that. I just like the cork.
I do like the cork. It's nice. We've had a couple nice corks, but anyway.
I mean, but it's been like a in passing statement, not a this might if I had to include this in the rating statement, like
Yeah.
okay. So for this red blend, the chaos theory, I actually like this. This is not your come home, I need a glass of red wine type of wine. This is your light chicken pasta. I actually see somebody cooking with this, honestly. Like somebody put in a sauce.
Mm.
Like they pour red wine in sauce. I think that would be cool because it's full body, but it's I don't know if this is a wine descriptive word. It's fluffy.
It's okay. It's airy, like full but airy.
Yeah.
Got some, yeah. Okay.
That's why I was like, I don't think this is the right descriptive word, but I'm gonna say it. Because that's who I am. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it more than I thought I was going to. I'm gonna be honest. I was like, okay, prepare yourself for the red. And then I will say I was pleasantly surprised. I'm going to give this a 3.75. I can't give it a 4, because it's not a favorite, but it's not a bad wine. Like I enjoyed it. The smell of it, it wasn't. You know how you smell some red wines and you go, whoo. It was subtle. It was pleasant. It was okay. It was fluffy. I'm sorry. That is the descriptive word for today. Okay, it was nice. I enjoyed this. This would be something that if I knew I was going someplace and they enjoyed red wines, but I wasn't sure of like how red. I would get this. I would get this. I can understand why it costs what it cost. And I would honestly say I think it's because of the fluffiness. Shut up, Siobhan. So like it's not tart. You know how like it's not.
I mean, I got you with the fluffy. It's light and airy, and it sits on the palate well. Yeah.
Yes. See, thank you. See, she puts my words
to make sense. Yes.
Fluffy makes sense. It's just not your traditional wine.
Fluffy makes sense for cotton candy. I'm like,
no, cotton candy is sticky and nasty.
It's also fluff because it's this.
It's not fluff. It's nothing. Like you touch cotton candy, it dissolves. That's not fluffy. Fluffy, you can still feel like this is fluffy. I'm fluffy.
And on that note, oh boy. Yep.
But you can still feel me, you know? So cute and fluffy. Okay, on that note, ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to say thank you for joining us on this wonderful episode.
Oh,
a little something to write about with your hostesses, Tay Michelle.
And Siobhan trying to sit here and figure out what's going on, Camille.
Oh goodness, be sure to join us each and every Wednesday for more laughs, of course, more fun, and of course, more wine, even the fluffy kind. Farts. We go live every last Saturday of the month at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time right here on YouTube and on Instagram. And you can follow us at a little something, the number 2, Wine About. And we'd like to thank you all for joining us today. And remember, as always,
There's nothing wrong with a little wine.
Or or a fluffy one.